Tonight, my luring fruit, tasty snack, or deadly weapon? We have the answers.
And are business owners on the Colossus struggling to get by? Have they been forced to turn to a life of salvaging the ocean? And is it truly a profitable venture? All that and more at 11. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hoth Topics. I am Ian, and I am a janitor on board the Colossus. Joining me today is a stormtrooper seizing my janitorial supplies under suspicion they may be deadly weapons.
No proof.
John, how you doing?
I'm cold, Ian. I am very cold. It is not supposed to be this cold in Southern California. I think it might have gone below 70. This is ridiculous. I have 3 jackets on. Please feel pity on us, rest of the country. Midwest, we feel your pain. We know exactly what you're going through.
John does not speak for me. In order to kind of distract from the cold, we did go ahead and watch the next 3 episodes of Resistance, and are going to bring you the reconnaissance on Resistance, if you would, if you will, if you do.
You doing all right there?
Do you do? That it do.
So, what episodes are we covering in?
We are covering the Doza Dilemma.
Should be 14, according to Wikipedia.
The First Order Occupation.
Oh, yeah?
And the New Trooper.
Yep, I forgot the whole name of that. It's 2 words. I wrote the new something or other.
The new something or other.
So, I'm glad one of us is paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, if you pay attention half the time, and I pay attention the other half the time, we create a whole attention.
Tensions, yes.
Yes, exactly 1 unit of tensions.
What happened in Doza Dilemma? I watched it 2 weeks ago, wrote my notes then, and then didn't watch it for this week.
Yeah.
Because my notes are comprehensive.
I'll take this one, yeah. So, in the Doza Dilemma, we know from previous episodes, Sonara is a pirate spy. Her pirate captain, Kragan, has decided that they need to do something big in order to get a payout from the First Order, because harassing the station is costing them more than they'd like. So the First Order says, all right, we have an idea for you. Go ahead and kidnap Doza's daughter. So Sonara gets the command to sneak her pirate friends onto the station and into the tower. She seems pretty reluctant to do this, and I think one of the first things that I was excited about was, ooh, yay, Sonara gets to go through a moral dilemma here. So she has to struggle with whether or not she's going to get her pirate friends access. Tora is hanging out with Kaz, and Sonara comes in. Tora invites them up to the tower and kind of says, yeah, you can come up anytime you want, just use my personal code, which Sonara then says, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to get my pirate friends in to kidnap her. Kaz went to go see Sonara, gets there right as Sonara is getting her pirate friends up to the tower, and essentially figures out that she's a pirate spy. Sonara didn't really know what they were after until her friends told her that they were after Tora, so she kind of has a change of heart, and after running into Kaz, tells him, hey, they've kidnapped Sonara, go save her. I'm not sure how Doza gets alerted. Oh yeah, the pirates take out some of the droids, and that's how he figures out that something's happened. Tora's missing, so he scrambles the aces. The pirates are getting away, and they end up rendezvousing with this ship that is very ridiculous looking. The episode ends with Kaz managing to transmit the information over to the aces, who are then closing in on this ship. A First Order lander comes out of nowhere, but in a twist that I admit I did not see coming, the First Order fakes them out, shoot up the pirates, and rescue Tora from a setup that they themselves had set up, and deliver her back. That is what happened in the Doza Dilemma. John, what were your thoughts on the episode?
We're going to do this chronologically, like we did last time. I believe I am correct in saying this, that Sonara is a far better spy than Kaz.
I agree. 135,000%.
Well, my notes is Sonara is a better spy than Kaz. Kaz is a bad spy.
Is that all the notes?
I have a note here that says leading questions, and I know that that's a reference to Kaz leading questions to Sonara that were like way too obvious, like he does in a later episode. I just don't remember what those questions were about, but Kaz does not know how to be low-key.
No, he does not know how to be low-key. There was a point in this episode, so Tora, first of all, Tora is like slumming it down with the people of the platform, which I thought, good for you, Tora, coming down off the tower, hanging out with your friends. She just wanted to go hang out with people who are friendly.
Or her age.
Yeah,
or
right.
not robots.
So she invites the guys up to the tower to play this, like, target shooting game. As I'm watching this, I'm going, all right, Kaz, when it gets to be your turn with the toy gun, don't mess this up. You got this. So he misses, like, every target.
Yeah.
And this bothered me a bit because in a previous episode, he told Poe, after Poe handed him a blaster, I was like, are you good with these? He's like, yeah, I'm great with them in the simulations. And I was like, didn't you say you were great in the simulations? Was that just, were you lying? I'm disappointed in you. Be better at soldiering. Captain Pyre makes a reappearance. I think he appears in all 3 of these episodes, actually.
Yeah, that's actually something that I made a note of after watching all 3 of these.
Mm-hmm.
These 3 episodes work really well played one after each other.
Yeah,
because it starts with Pirate Attack and the First Order doing their thing, and then it keeps telling that story really well. Way better than how I viewed it, which was piggybacking off episode 13. Yes, 13, which I don't remember what happened, but it didn't have as much to do with the First Order as
I think that was more of a side story, yeah.
So I felt that this was like if we were going to call this a story arc, that, this would be like the occupation arc sort of thing. Coining that trademark.
I don't think we can trademark
trademarks. All you have to do is yell the word trademark.
I don't think that's how that works.
Yeah, I just trademarked that.
Yeah, you're copyright infringing trademark.
Oh, how dare you.
Yeah, I like Captain Pyre. He's, kind of has a personality that comes through in all these episodes. One of my notes just says double spy action. One is definitely better than the other at spying. I agree. One thing that I really noticed, every character design is really varied. They're all pretty unique and interesting, and I really like that about this series. You could very well have just put half the people in the same outfit to save on animation cost or design cost or whatever, but everybody has a really unique look and style, and it makes everything feel a lot more alive. Even characters who don't get speaking roles, they seem like they have a personality and history based on their appearance. So let me ask you about the pirate flagship that comes at the end.
Okay.
What did you think about this?
There's something that bugged me about this ship. It has nothing to do with the ship. It was that other people reviewing this episode, there kept being talk of like part of the ship was an AT-AT.
Right.
But it's not. It's
not?
an ATT. It's the
M6?
The wheeled vehicle.
The wheeled vehicle.
Rogue One, it was a prison transporter. It looks like an AT-AT, but it's on 8 wheels. Clones used it on Kashyyyk.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway, it's the cockpit and hull of that thing, and not an AT-AT.
Are you sure?
100%.
I don't know what you're talking about, this wheeled thing.
Listeners, you get to hold on while I use Google.
We can just pause the recording. It's a different thing. I thought it... See, that kind of sucks because, like, I was all excited to hear you talk about how awesome it is that they just stuck an AT-AT onto a ship, because I know you like AT-AT. But if it's not an AT-AT, then you flushed away all my joy by pointing this out. I'm sad now.
Oh, why can I not find a picture of this vehicle? This is upsetting me.
So after examining the evidence as you presented, you are absolutely right. It is not an AT-AT. And I guess if anybody...
It's called a Juggernaut.
If anybody would know it's not an AT-AT, it would be you. And the thing that convinced me on it is the neck joint.
Yeah. The superstructure of the armored vehicle that they've slapped onto this thing doesn't have a spot for the neck joint of an AT-AT. So the only way it could have been an AT-AT is if they cut that tubing off and slammed the cockpit into the hull. Mm-hmm. Or they armored it, I guess. But there's still some design differences between it and the AT-AT. But again, that could just be because it's animated. I mean, the AT-ATs in Rebels didn't look like the AT-ATs in the movies. In fact, they were like a lot taller, and they almost looked like AT-ACTs. Mm-hmm. Just because how tall and skinny they were, and their cheek turrets, I guess, side
cheek turrets, side turrets, head turrets. Anyway, going on to other notes in the episode.
We're doing a thing.
Yeah, I did like how Tora wasn't just like a passive prisoner. when she got taken by the pirates. She was doing everything she could to like mess with them, like kicking them in the head and messing up their aiming when they were firing at Kaz and the fireball. I find that with a lot of prisoner characters, they like get the handcuffs on them and then they just kind of like
shut down.
Yeah, they shut down. They subdues them until they see like an opening,
right?
You know. And Tora was just like, I'm just going to keep kicking you in the head and doing everything I can to be a pain in your butt because you're kidnapping me.
I think we are missing the most important thing about this episode.
What's that?
Is that the Keldor pilot talked.
Yeah, I have that. I have that on my notes.
Tim, friend of show Tim,
yeah,
that was for you.
Yeah,
you specifically requested them do that for you. That was us. Trademarked.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. The Keldor got some lines. I am upset that I do not know the Keldor's name off the top of my head.
I don't know. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah. But so he got some lines, and I think it's a he based on the.
I don't want to presume genders.
Well, I mean that's the thing. Cause
I'm already presuming it's a Keldor. We don't even know that.
We do know it's a Keldor.
It could just be a guy under like has a Keldor like helmet,
shaped helmet,
and he wears it out of
How
respect.
Weird would that? How funny would that be?
I'd be stoked on that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, so the Keldor ace got some lines. That was cool. Now let's talk about that ending twist where.
Well, let's real quick talk about the other pirate ship that's going on in this episode. The one between Kaz and Sonara. Saving that one for 2 weeks.
Ooh, you've been on Twitter too long, my friend.
Is it? So is it Kaznara? Or Sinaz? I like Sinaz personally.
Sinaz sounds like something you would take if you have a cold.
But it only works because I got to call it a pirate ship. Moving on.
Oh, I'm pretty proud of that. Good job, man. That you went for it, and it paid off.
It did off something.
What?
Looks around. So yeah,
So let's talk about that twist.
So for the First Order Double Cross, I have been priding myself on the fact that I've been able to catch all the twists in the show by like 3 minutes into the episode. And this is a twist that has been the entire series building up to, and I did not see it coming.
Yeah, same here.
And it's like, now that it didn't happen, it's like, that's so obvious. That is such a genius tactic.
Right.
In our D&D games, I'm constantly trying to throw another group under the bus to save my own butt.
Yeah.
So, like, how I didn't think of it is crazy.
I legitimately didn't see it coming, and I was really happy when it happened. Because I think one of the things that we had mentioned in previous episodes is, give the kids a little bit more credit. We don't need to beat them over the head with story and twists that we can see coming a mile away. You don't need to handhold them through the whole thing. And this episode was as if they said, okay, let's see if you see this one coming. I thought it was great, and the setup for and it was a great setup for the next two episodes.
Yeah, so I figured something like this was going to happen. Like, we knew the First Order was working with the pirates, and I figured that they were going to work with something with the pirates to be like, they come in and then shoot some fake shots, some good misses, some tactical hits, and then pay the pirates off and have them go. But like a full on betrayal of them was, I thought that was really smart.
Straight up shot them. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that twist.
The entire page of this note just says, "What's Sonara going to do?" Because she was left on the station.
Yeah, that is a good point, which is addressed in the next episode. They do mention that the Colossus's planet, whatever it is in the outer worlds. Mm-hmm. I think it's Captain Pyre that says it, or no, not Captain Pyre, the red pilot guy. Can't remember his name, but the First Order pilot with the red suit. He's like, these outer worlds, they can be dangerous. So I think that kind of helps us further hypothesize that the Colossus and its planet is in the outer rim.
Yeah.
So, which is something we kind of always assumed, but never really had confirmation on. And this isn't really even confirmation.
Before we go on to the next one, the last time I kind of wrote a little paragraph thing of the episode.
Sure.
Of the 3 previous episodes we watched, I should say, this one felt the most Star Wars-y to me. It was action-y, it was rescue-y, and it ends on a wind, but does it.
Yeah. Oh.
It's classic Star Wars.
Good point. Good point.
Except for usually the third one in the series.
Closing it out, they usually end on an actual win.
Yeah. The story of this episode could easily have gone into a typical save the princess trope, since Tora was abducted.
Right.
Or taken prisoner, I should say. It could have gone to the typical save the princess trope told since the beginning of time, but in typical Star Wars fashion, the princess doesn't necessarily need saving and probably could have extricated herself from the situation. She isn't a copy of Leia, which is nice, but she still has the same kind of kick butt.
The fighting spirit.
Yes. Tora seemingly trusts everyone and looks for the good in everyone, whereas Leia doesn't trust anybody, and that's kind of like her thing. I lost my train of thought, this small font. Whereas Leia doesn't trust anyone, however, they both can hold their own in a fight, and it's the men around them that perceive them wrong until they are shown up. I didn't see the twist at the end of the First Order turning on the pirates to get Doza's trust, and I thought that was a really smart move on their part. Mm-hmm. A part of me hopes that Doza takes the protection offered just so the Kaz will be forced to become a better spy. Spoilers, he doesn't. He's had it easy for the most part because no one on the platform really cares.
Right.
Once the First Order troops start marching around, he'll have to figure out right quick and proper.
Well, with that...
And then a future prediction. I will have wrote Kaz as a bad spy on every note until the end of this thing.
I believe that came true. So let's go into the new trooper then. No, not the new trooper.
I think we both made a random note about Doza's mustache.
Yeah, I think his mustache looks like a Hostess cupcake.
And I was wondering if it was Imperial Code, or up to Imperial Code.
Well, let's go into the First Order occupation then. John, why don't you take this one? What happened in this episode?
This was a pretty straightforward episode. I thought it was we need to get someone off the station type story, where that story is Sonara needs to get off the station because the First Order have now occupied the platform.
Right.
And they are looking for a spy. Cass thinks, oh no, they're onto me because he is a bad spy.
To be fair, they straight up say,
you might be the spy.
You might be the spy, and the other person of interest is someone named Sonara.
He finds out that the spy they're looking for is specifically a pirate spy, and specifically named Sonara. I keep wanting to say Pacifically because it's an ocean platform, but it's not the Pacific Ocean. So
Atlantically.
Puns don't work. Atlantically. Indianly. So he goes looking for her to try to find her before the First Order do to help her escape because he loves her. Something about pirate food. I didn't quite understand what that was about. I knew what it was about.
He was making a very bad analogy.
Analogy so bad that Sonara still, at the end of the episode, was like, good luck with your food. Kaz, you got some stuff you need to learn. But lots of running around, lots of close calls as one does in a escape a situation episode, and eventually Sonara is able to make it to an escape pod, which is underwater, which I thought was really cool for a later note, and is able to get off of the platform, and Kaz is able to not get caught, which is nice, because they tried getting her on a cargo ship that was leaving, which is hard to do because everybody had to get permission first. She saw that Kaz was in trouble, and then she got off to help Kaz, and then missed her flight, so then she had to take a boat ride. Right. So that was fun.
It was a good episode. This is kind of where the political grayness begins, because the First Order are occupying the platform, and characters are starting to divide on the lines of, do you think the First Order are keeping you safe, or do you think they're a menace to your freedoms? This is kind of where that starts. Kaz, essentially, even though he now knows that Sonara is a spy, is making the judgment call that, you are the pirate spy, but he can kind of see the conflict in her there. And I think one of the lines is like, you may be a pirate, but I know you're a good person. I liked that interaction. I enjoy how comically nonsensical the First Order crackdown is in this episode. They confiscate the little yellow guy's floor waxer for no reason.
Could be a weapon.
Exactly. It could be a weapon.
You could polish those floors so clean there's no traction. It's not good.
And so they confiscate his floor waxer, and then there's a scene when Kaz and Sonara are getting in the elevator to go to the lower levels, the same little yellow guy like comes in and he's got like a trash bucket or something, and he's just upset that he doesn't have his floor waxer, and I love that they made that a thing. Also, that scene was complete with awkward elevator music, perfect for any of your awkward young romance scenes. I enjoy when Kaz brings Niku in on the escape plan, and Niku cannot get over the metaphor that he knows the station like the back of his hand.
And that particular scene he refers to as great grand Nikto, which I thought was a really weird thing to call like one of your grandparents. Like, my great grand human. What? Okay, that's fine. It's Star Wars. It's dumb things. We don't need to worry about other people's cultures that aren't human.
I look at my hand. I look at the hallway. I look at my hand. I look at the hallway. I'm just not seeing the similarities.
My second note on this episode is Kaz still bad at spying.
Yep.
And then even Yeager knows he's a bad spy. Because Kaz is complaining, like, I'm supposed to be spying on the First Order, and now they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. And isn't that the ideal situation for a spy? Whereas before, he had no contact with the First Order. Now he's in a situation of permanent contact with the First Order. I feel like this is the ideal way to get information on the First Order than by hearsay and scuttlebutt, because we're nautical.
I think his original task was to find out who on the station was sympathetic to the First Order, not just spy on the First Order. But I guess you're right. Those two things kind of go hand in hand. If they're there, you'll find out pretty quick who's sympathetic and who's not. Yeah, he's a bad spy. He's always been a bad spy.
In the next episode, it works out because he's able to get some information. And is a slightly better spy.
Right.
Also, he doesn't listen to people that are trying to help him. Like, Yeager tells him, like, well, the occupation's having, keep your head down. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go do the most obvious spying that I can do now.
Right.
Like, it's getting tiresome.
He needs to get better at this.
So at some point, Sinar calls Captain Pirate Man.
Captain
Nautilin.
Captain Swig.
He's not a Nautilin. He's a Aqualish.
His name is Kragan.
She calls him and is like, hey, I need you to get me off of the ship. And he's like, we can't. It's locked down. We can't get within 5 kilometers.
The First Order betrayed us, and now they're going to shoot us down.
No, not that. He says we can't get within 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers is visible from the station. That's really close. The First Order is not doing a very good job of patrolling this planet if a pirate ship can get within 5 kilometers. Like, if I said there was a alien vessel 5 kilometers off Point Loma, that's too close. We have 3 carriers in the bay and a sub base and 3 air bases within 5 miles of the ocean. Alien starship should not be able to get within 5 kilometers of our shore unnoticed.
I mean, I can't point out any flaws in your logic.
Thank you. Trademark.
Yeah, no, that's...
Oh, and then to go on with your, the First Order's, like, stopping people makes nonsense.
Yeah.
They arrest somebody for being out past curfew, and then just ignore all the other people out past curfew.
Right.
There's so many people out past curfew.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's up to, like, the individual troopers to use some sort of discretion, and none of them really know what they're doing, so they're just defaulting back to weird rules.
Do you have anything else before the end?
Not really.
Okay. So I did want to mention that I thought it was really cool that the escape pods for the Colossus were underwater.
Right.
I've been seeing a lot of theories jump around the internet that the Colossus is actually a starship.
Yeah, I've
which would be
heard that too. Yeah.
If anybody is a fan of the Stargate series, they'll know that the second Stargate series, Atlantis, the city Atlantis that the whole thing takes place on, is submergible and also a galactic starship, which is nonsense. But, the ancients are more advanced than we are.
Sure.
The Atlanteans, I should say.
Right.
The whole escape pod being underwater, it just made me think of, I think it's Futurama, when they need to take the Planet Express ship underwater, and Fry asks the professor how many, like, they need to take a certain many atmospheres underwater, and he asks, how many atmospheres is the ship rated for? And he's like, well, it's meant to be in space, so 0. So I just like that it's clearly an escape pod that is probably capable of spaceflight, assuming that the Colossus might be a starship, is still functional underwater in the Star Wars universe. But of course, a lot of things don't make sense in space in the Star Wars universe, so we'll give it a pass. But I'm not giving that 5 kilometers a pass.
There's space whales.
No, sir.
John.
Well, there's also regular whales that didn't seem to want to bite Sonara, which I was happy about. I thought she was going to escape past that giant sea thing that we see, and they go, okay, munch.
Yeah.
And then there's no more Sonara. Then how can I pirate ship Sinaz? I can't, because she's dead.
Oh, it just... okay, it's official now. All ships that involve pirates need to be called pirate ships.
Yep. So, and then just to wrap it up, my last paragraph of notes, and I promise this is the last one because I didn't do it for the 3rd episode. I wrote, kind of getting tired of Kaz not being a good spy.
Yeah.
He constantly endangers his friends as a result of most of his actions. It was fun at first, but he's not learning week to week.
Right.
He just keeps staying the same while endangering more and more people. As for Kaz not understanding why no one seems to be upset with the occupation with the First Order, and it's kind of something you touched on, where a lot of these people are like, well, the First Order's here. They fought off the pirates, so they're good. So I assume that the residents of the Colossus have existed outside central government for a long time. They don't have suspicions of the First Order that the Republic has, and in fact see them as heroes protectors now. I doubt Kaz will ever see or understand why they have this point of view because of his mission and training. It's kind of like when our country sends peacekeepers to another country. Some see it as they're here as a stabilizing force. Some see it as an invasion,
right.
Which is why we have these constant wars and stuff that we're not going to get into because this is about science fiction. And writing that about Kaz was really tough for me to write because I'm starting to dislike the character more and more. And I feel like I'm slowly going into how I felt about Jar Jar when I was a kid. That I hated Jar Jar, but I have no problem with the actor. So, like, I love Christopher Sean. He's great. He likes to interact with the community, and he seems so energetic and so happy to be part of this community. And with Ahmed Best, Jar Jar, I liked him. Like, I thought the guy playing Jar Jar was great. I just didn't like the character. Mm-hmm. But if we've seen his stories and stuff, he took people not liking the character as not liking him anyway. My whole thing is, like, I don't want to get into this pattern of saying that I don't like Kaz, but I like the actor. Like, I'm hoping that at some point the writing of his character will change him from just being a bad spy. Like, yeah, I need him to learn and grow, and he does a little bit in the next episode. But, like, I feel really bad saying that I don't like this character, knowing that could, in some weird universe where Christopher Sean's listening to our episode, could affect him, because I don't want someone to think that because I don't like the writing for the character that I don't like them as an actor, or I don't like their portrayal of a character.
Which you would think would be kind of a common sense thing, but unfortunately that's
really not how it works. It's how it works in our brains, but not how it works to someone that's pouring their sweat and tears into a character.
Well, yeah, and there's that, and then there's also, the precedents that some people have set where they take fictionalized characters very personally, so they, regardless of, they can't tell the difference between the fictionalized character and the people behind the scenes, and so they attack everybody. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of that. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I have not given up on the character yet, and I think that there's a meta reason behind it. And that reason being, but because of the mid-season trailer, we know that there's going to be an event that takes place that is going to radically change the viewpoint of the First Order and the stakes. And I think that's going to be the kick in the butt that we're going to see the transference from goofball, very bad at spying Kaz, and have him transition into the more competent, focused spy that we would like to see more of.
I think right now he's still playing spy as opposed to being spy.
Right. The stakes haven't been raised high enough. We have not taken the stakes and put them on a pedestal and raised it. I was trying to make like a stake, like stakes.
Yeah, I was waiting for you. You're just...
And it's fizzling out. Yeah. There's no more gas.
I'll grill you on it later.
Yeah, the grill is dead.
Hibachi.
I'm bad at jokes. Hibachi. So yeah,
let's stop being serious. No.
Yeah, let's. So that's really all I got for
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, let's go into the new trooper then. So the new trooper, the First Order occupation is in full swing now. We open up on our Force Kids friends, fishing, sky fishing, fishing for fish who are also birds, not in the water. And they are making a lot of noise. First Order Stormtrooper comes over and finds them and tries to capture them, to which they knock him out in response, and they realize that they've done a bad thing. So they go and find Kaz. Kaz and Niku and Tam and BB-8 all go to help out, and they find a knocked out Stormtrooper who then begins to wake up, who is then knocked out again and taken down to the shell folk where his helmet kicks in, and they tell the trooper to check in. So Kaz essentially takes the Stormtrooper's uniform, goes to check in, and this is kind of the first bit of actual successful spying Kaz has done, where he uses the uniform and tries to blend in with troopers. He ends up falling in with a squad. His initial plan is to just go check their reports and make sure that the trooper didn't report the kids, and if he did, delete the report. But what that eventually turns into is him realizing that he can get some data off of these computers, and he steals a data stick and ends up taking it back. His behavior is erratic because, again, bad at spying, which is pointed out when he has to pass inspection by Commander Pyre, and he orders that the trooper go in for a conditioning and a brain wipe. So Kaz kind of jumps out and escapes and manages to get the armor back on the trooper, who was knocked out for like a third time and just is completely dazed from all of the concussions he was receiving. But at the end of it, Kaz ends up getting this map with indicators on it that him and Yeager don't really know what they are. They suspect maybe it's fleet different fleets or whatever it is. They think they might be war preparations, and that's where we end on the episode. So what do you got for this one, John?
Bird fishing is fun. I have done it when I've been fishing with roommate Mike and his dad out in off Point Loma, outside Mission Bay or San Diego Bay. What you do is you put fish on, like a bait fish on your hook, then you cast, and then the seagulls swoop down to get it before it hits the water. It's a lot of fun to reel in a seagull. It is not a lot of fun to deal with the seagull that has a hook stuck in it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
They peck and they flop around a lot. They aren't slimy like fish, but they are disease-ridden rodents of the air. But the casting and reeling in a bird is a lot of fun. So
don't do this, kids. That's not the goal. It's just an unfortunate side effect of
you don't have a choice.
Fishing. Yeah,
they're coming for your bait in the air.
Speaking of the fish that they reeled in, they managed to knock out this trooper by beating him with fish, which I think is a most ancient defense art.
It's a very honorable form of combat,
right?
That we have seen in many a Monty Python sketch.
Yes, the fish slapping dance, of course.
Of course. There's always a bigger fish.
There's a scene in the beginning of this episode where Kaz is basically grousing about the First Order being there, and Tam and Niku both take the side of, well, I feel safer with them on board, and you get that political divide going a little further in this episode, where you can really kind of see why people would go for the First Order because of that security mentality, and it's the same reason why people went for the Empire. We actually learned that Tam's grandfather worked in an Imperial factory, which kind of adds to her bias for the First Order, and it's like you said before, where you don't really think that Kaz is ever going to see their point of view, and we get to see the inverse of that a little bit here, where Tam can't really see the other point of view of my grandfather was just making a living, and with Yeager and Kaz going, no, he was being taken advantage of. And there's even a point later down the line where the Force sensitive kids are saying, well, we knocked this guy out because the First Order destroyed our village and killed our families and friends. And Tam's reaction to that is, well, they must have had a good reason. Which, initially, when you see that, at least when I see it, my first thought is, wow, that's super ridiculous to hear that and then not immediately be questioning everything. But in reality, that's a pretty realistic response to that kind of news. Like, it takes more than just one damning revelation to change anybody's idea on anything. And so I think that it's kind of interesting that they're bringing that sort of political viewpoint of war into Star Wars in this way, because you can chase this into the new movies as well, because if you look at the original Star Wars trilogy, that was war as we saw it against the Nazis, right? You know, there's a good side and there's a bad side, and sort of the minutia of, not minutia, but the smaller sort of conflicts don't take the foreground to there's good and there's bad. Whereas in the newer movies and in this Star Wars, I think we're looking at how we're looking at war currently as Western society, and how it's being kind of waged, and how there are definitely more questions behind who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this segment here, the conversation that you're talking about, where Tam, it actually made me feel really uncomfortable that it wasn't a children's show and a Star Wars show. And I can see you staring at me. Let me explain that. Like, I think even though, like, I am the biggest Imperial fanboy of the two of us, I also recognize that Star Wars is a fantasy fairy tale, that in general, most of the time in fairy tales, we don't need to know why the bad guys are bad. We just know that they're bad. Mm-hmm. It was kind of weird to see them try to humanize the villains. Well, like, my note, like, I'm sure that there are a ton of folk in the galaxy that have benefited from Imperial rule, but that's not really a story that they've ever shown in the movies. They've never really shown Imperial worlds, controlled worlds in the movies until Solo and Rogue One. In the other movies, you have Tatooine, which is the Hutt space. Right. And Endor and Hoth, which is, no one claims it. Bespin didn't have any Imperial presence until the end of the movie. It wasn't until the Star Wars stories that we actually started seeing the impact of the Imperial government on the world. I have gone off track. I forgot what I was talking about.
In the movies, yeah. I think that this...
But in the movies, which is more geared to a general audience, where this show is kind of more geared towards children, where
sure.
It's like if you're watching the old G.I. Joe cartoon and they did a whole storyline about all the good Cobra is doing. Like, it doesn't feel right because Cobra's the enemy. In fact, they're just called Cobra the enemy.
Right.
The theme song. So I think it's interesting that they're trying to bring these lessons, that it's not just black and white. It's not good versus evil.
Right. Well, I guess that kind of brings up the question, when is the right time to introduce younger people to that concept? Because like when you said, you know, it made you uncomfortable that it was in a kid show, my initial reaction was surprise, but I definitely, I can see the merits of having it, and I can also see the merits of not having it.
Right. No. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah. It's a really good point.
The note that I made, like, I struggled writing that note because I didn't know how to word it right.
Right. No,
it's part of the story, and it makes sense to those competing views of what the Empire was or what the First Order was should be in the story. I felt that in the targeted age group for this show, that it was such a prominent feature. Like, it wasn't just another episode of a space action adventure, but there's actually real world political drama in this. So I thought that was interesting.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, really, and I don't, even though I say it made me uncomfortable, I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been in the show.
No, I agree.
I think it made me uncomfortable to talk about it.
To think about it.
I don't know, yeah.
Well, it's a complex question, because, you know, if you let kids continue to look at things in sort of like the classic black and white formula, that's going to carry over, and you have the problem of addressing gray areas later on. And that's kind of how we get, oh, that person's different than me, I'm going to punch them. But at the same time, it is very much a much more complex issue to teach, that there is good, there is bad, there's also in the middle. And so, yeah, no, I agree with you. Oh, this got deep.
Yeah. Especially since my next note goes the exact opposite direction.
Which is?
So, as you mentioned in the summary, that they're dragging this unconscious stormtrooper around.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're dragging him downstairs, and his head's bouncing off the stairs, and he's like, that's okay, he has a helmet, it'll be fine. My next note is, remember in Rogue One when Chirrut used the stormtrooper's crotch as a shield like 10 times. No relation to the episode. I just enjoyed how strong that armor is sometimes.
Yeah. But he was also able to knock them out cold with a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally fine. And then, so, skipping ahead to that, there's a scene where there's protesters, they're like, get off the Colossus. This is a free platform. Go back to your world.
Fruit's the most effective weapon.
Yeah, they're throwing fruit at stormtroopers. My note is, protesters throwing fruit. I wonder what's going to happen. And then, ... Oh, I guess it didn't happen. What everyone thought would happen when you throw fruit at armed stormtroopers.
Right.
And then
it happened later.
There's an arrow that goes all the way past my notes to the very end that goes, oh, it happened. Just with a stun setting. I thought it was going to be...
They're taking over, but at this point, they're still trying to have a bit of that illusion that they are a peacekeeping force sort of thing.
So... just before the Tam conversation, he says that quote that I said for the last episode. That wasn't that one. The Resistance put me here to spy on the First Order, and now they are everywhere. That's from this episode, not the previous one, of which I wrote, Kaz, you're a bad spy. Mm-hmm. But then he takes that armor, right?
Right.
And he goes, oh, I need to go get on the ship to make sure that this guy didn't report the Force younglings. Mm-hmm. These are not younglings.
Forcey kids.
Youngins. They haven't earned the lings yet. So he wears the armor and he does a passable job at spying.
Yeah.
Or disguise. He just barely made his bluff check. Maybe DC 15, he got a 16. You know what I'm saying, D&D nerds?
Yeah. I wrote legitimately the most spying Kaz has done so far.
I have one note that just says, Kaz on the command ship looking at data. Actually good spying. and then 2 hands clapping.
2 hands clapping.
So I thought it was cool that I started this episode block going, man, I am so tired of him not taking this seriously. Well, he's taking it seriously, but he's
goofy.
He's us playing James Bond,
right? Instead
of being James Bond, which is what he needs to do. And in this one, he's finally taking that next step.
Exactly.
For the first time, he's actually putting the risk solely on himself, which I finally was happy to see because he's finally recruited Niku into his things, and I can't let the green boy get hurt.
Niku playing it cool under pressure was both awesome and hilarious in this episode.
And he had what I like to call the sleep stick.
Yeah.
Where the First Order soldier who is knocked out and is now no longer wearing his armor is like, what's happening? He's like, oh, you're disoriented. I can help you go back to sleep. Okay, cool. Go to sleep. The only thing I didn't like about it is I don't feel this would be in character for Niku from what we've seen of him. Openly attacking somebody.
Well, so...
But then again, he's doing it to save ones that he loves, which I think we can all agree Niku is the most innocent person on this thing, and he has a big heart, and so I think that he's starting to weigh the First Order, weigh these enemies, actions against these people versus keeping his friends safe and the ones he loves safe.
I think I have an even simpler solution to this.
You thought it was explanation.
No, earlier in the episode when they first knock out the stormtrooper, they knock him out for the second time when Kaz finds him. Mm-hmm. Kaz says, "You knocked him out. If he wakes up, he's going to kill us." And then he wakes up, and then Niku knocks him out again. And then he goes, "Why did you do that?" And Niku goes, "Because I didn't want him to kill us." He legitimately just believes that if the guy wakes up, he's going to kill them. Understands what's happening. I really liked in this episode how we got a little bit more of the inner workings of the First Order, how their troopers interact. We got hints about the conditioning and the fact that they are aware of their programming, and if a trooper is falling out of line, they are programmed to be aware that they're not following the program and to send them to be reprogrammed for a brain scrape, as it was. It's almost like, giving a droid a memory wipe or something.
Right.
They're treated like soldiers first, people second, and they're aware of that role. So that was cool. And then I just wrote the line military supply line. I don't know what it was in reference to, but I wrote it.
Okay, my note of that line is Captain Doza is starting to sound like Uncle Hondo.
Yeah.
Hondo Anaka. I call him Uncle Hondo. He's not the same voice actor. At least the Wikipedia page I looked up didn't say that he played Hondo Anaka. But I'm starting to think that Doza might actually be a pirate, and then he might be Hondo Naka.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's my new pirate ship.
No, stop it.
Naka and Doza.
That's not even a ship. That's just a character being another character.
Well, one character's a pirate. That's why it's a pirate ship.
No, that's not how...
Yeah, that's why Sonar and Kaz works. Because Sonar is a pirate, and I'm shipping them. Pirate ship.
Right.
Booyah!
That's...
Trademarked.
No. That's all I got for...
Yeah, I don't have a long paragraph for the end of this.
Okay.
I got distracted with my cousin asking me to help him with a cosplay for WonderCon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is it Star Wars related?
Not at all.
Then we're not going to talk about it here.
It's One Piece related.
Oh,
and
boy.
I have no idea who this character is, but I know he needs a large fur coat, and it'd be cheaper for him to buy one off of a Chinese cosplay site than it would be for us to make the coat.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Very cool. All right.
That's all we got. So, to sum up everything for me, I know I give a lot of crap for Kaz again for the second
time in a row,
but I'm still really enjoying the show. Still a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I feel like the animation has gotten even better as the series goes on, and if it does get another season, I'm sure it will just increase.
That seems to be the way of things. Like they release it, and if it's popular enough, they get more budget for more episodes. And
the first season of Clone Wars versus the last season of Clone Wars is an incredibly stark contrast. So
first season of Clone Wars is woof. Man.
It's hard, yeah. But I really didn't like the animation style at first, and I don't know what it is now, but there's something about it, like the backgrounds when they do ships, when they do other
Shading's
things, not necessarily
improved.
Characters, it looks really clean.
Shading's improved, lighting's improved, like it. Yeah.
That's it. I've been enjoying it. We got a handful of episodes left.
From my end, about the same. I'm still enjoying the show. If we weren't enjoying the show, we wouldn't talk about it. So, and we hope you are enjoying listening to us talk about the show and a variety of other Star Wars related topics. If you have an idea for such a topic, you can go ahead and email us at HothPod@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us on the Twitters at HothPod. And if you're looking for more Hoth Topics content, including some of John's costume builds, which are going to kick up here soon because we're getting another one ready. I think you posted the first two for the
ground crew.
The ground crew costume. It's coming along really well.
There's probably only going to be one more part to that, which will be finishing the jumpsuit and putting together the accessories.
Right.
And hopefully we'll get some of it done for WonderCon, and you can at least see a test fitting of it before Ian goes, nah.
Yeah.
Nah, we'll save this for the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be fun. You got any articles about your strong opinions coming up?
Yeah, I actually have one coming up. I'm probably going to write it this week.
Oh, nice.
And so that should be out probably about the time this episode comes out.
Okay.
So go ahead and check that out. It is about me and my opinions on things.
Where can we check that
out? We can check that out at HothTopicsPodcast.com.
Oh, wow.
Where you can find all of those articles, other articles, and all of our previous episodes. That'll do it for this episode of Hoth Topics. I have been Ian.
I am still so cold, and it's probably like 75 or something. Oh, man.
I can... You know what? I'm gonna...
in Minnesota, you and me, we are brothers.
Just don't... No, I can't be a part of this. That was John, and in his defense, it's 57.
It might as well be 75. I don't know the difference.
He's just cold.
I have to wear shoes. It's gross.
And the reason why he's cold? Well, this is Hoth Topics, isn't it?
Oh, wow. That's painful.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
I'm still hurt from that.
Don't be cold to my jokes. Our listeners don't listen to us because we're prepared. They can go elsewhere for that.
Our listeners don't listen to us.